Right, so what you want to do is go back and open the bonnet. So go and pull the bonnet release. You need to go in the car to do it because the bonnet is shut at the moment. So if you pull the bonnet release, so down by the driver's side kick panel, which is on the driver's side of the car, down in the footwell you should see a little lever with a bonnet on it.
Is it this one here?
So do you see?
No, there's nothing down there.
What you got here is you've got your fuse panel, and then below that is the bonnet release.
Yeah.
So if you pull that,
Pull it, okay.
so pull it.
I am.
There you go. So that's, do you hear that clunk? That's the bonnet releasing. So now what you want to do, check that it's in park, which it is. So just check that it's in park. Check that the handbrake's applied.
Yeah, it does seem to be.
Okay. And now get out the car, take the keys with you, and close the door. So you always want to take the keys with you.
You don't want it to shut on your keys.
Oh yeah, you can shut it completely. So you can do that. But you always take the keys with you in case the car locks itself, which I've had happen before. Not on this one, but on other cars, and it's very annoying because you don't have to go and find your spare set of keys. So if you find the bonnet release again, there you go. Whilst holding the bonnet, grab that bonnet stay. So grab it at that end, and then find the hole, pop it in. There you go. Now what you want to do, whenever you start any work on a car, it's always advisable to disconnect the battery. So take off the negative terminal, that's positive. So take off the negative terminal.
Oh, I did the positive.
That's alright. Take off the negative first. So you might need to grab it and wriggle it a bit. Normally they'd be tightly clamped onto the battery, but these ones are loose because the car is not in storage, but
I can't really take that one off.
It's not having the battery connected permanently because it sits around a lot. So there you go, pull it upwards. So wriggle it. There you go, put it down there so it stays out of the way. Now pull the positive off and tuck that out of the way. Now, this is obviously the engine. Now where do you think the oil goes in? When you top it up with oil, where do you put the oil?
Somewhere around here.
Which one do you think though? So look at where the engine is.
Here.
That's correct. So you just see it's got an oil logo on it?
Yes.
So what I always do, it's not strictly necessary for an oil change, but what I always do every oil change that I do is I always undo this and pop that up there. The reason is so that you don't get airlocks inside the engine itself, which could hold old oil. Now, where do you think the oil is going to be drained from?
The bottom.
Exactly. So let's go underneath the car and have a look. So put the keys somewhere safe. So put them on the garden bin. And let's have a look underneath the car. So this one, because this is an automatic, you've actually got two sumps. So you've got a sump over there, which is for the automatic transmission. We don't need to change that because I did that last year, I think. And you've got another sump here, which is for the engine oil. Do you see you've got this nut on the back, or this bolt rather? That's the bolt that we need to undo to do the oil change.
Okay.
So go and get your drain pan. Okay, so go to your socket set.
Wait, is it behind me?
Yep. Now put it down here so that you've got access to it. Just lay it down on the floor, that way round, that's right. And if you open it up, and open it, and just remove that protective cover that I've got, which is basically just keeps all of the sockets in place, and I tend to cover it with WD-40 to keep all of the sockets clean and stop them from rusting. Now then, the next question you have is what size socket do you need for the sump bolt? So you're going to use probably this socket here, which is a 1/2 inch, I think. So that's a 1/2 inch. That's a 1/4 inch. That one is a 3/4 inch. Now all of the sockets are metric, but the socket measurements for the actual sockets, I've forgotten what those are called, socket wrench, are in imperial measurements. So that is a 1/2 inch, I think. Yeah, that's a 1/2 inch. So this car, because it's modern, all of the measurements are in metric. And also because it's Japanese, all of the metrics, all of the measurements are also in metric. So what you're going to have to do is have a look at the sump bolt. And if you look at the sump bolt, you can see it's going to be quite a small socket.
Yes.
So have a look at the sockets in the socket set, and it's going to be either a 13, 14 or 15. So start with the 13, which will be there. That is 13, but that's the 3/8, sorry, the 3/4. So
okay.
Start with your 13. So pop the 13 onto, don't put it on the socket wrench yet, just put it onto the drain plug and just make sure that it fits. So you need to get under the car to do that.
My arm is getting tangled and my hair is in my face. I can't see anything to help.
So that's why you need to be in a slightly better position. So
Yeah, I think I do.
does that fit?
I don't know.
So try it again, come round in front of the car. So come round and you want to go in from the front back. So I'll tell you what I'll do, bear with me. So I do have a crawl thing somewhere, but it's a bit grubby at the moment and I need to clean it.
Yeah, I think I need a larger one.
Okay, so do you want to try the 15? So try the 1/2 inch 15. So put the 13 back so you know where it is. And try the 1/2 inch 15. So put the 13 back and then try your 1/2 inch 15. There you go, so that's your 15.
I feel like 14 would be better. But
Try 14. I think it's either 14 or 15. I can't remember off the top of my head. So try the 14, and if you get a snug fit, then you're ready to go.
there we go. That works.
So put that onto your socket. So to put it on the socket, grab the socket wrench. And if you grab the wrench itself, do you notice there's a button on the other side? If you turn it over, see that button?
This
The big
switch
silver
for
one.
this.
The big button there that you're pressing. So you press that down, and then you put the socket onto there. There you go. Now you need to work out what direction you want to go in. So it's going to be left to loosen. So if we look, at the moment, that is tightening. You see?
Yes.
So that would be right to tighten. So you need to flick the thing on top. Now go under the car and get your drain panel, drain bolt under there ready to go. And you need to get the socket onto the bolt. So you need to do a bit of crawling. So you get it on the bolt and now push away from you.
Oh my god, is that just really tight?
Yep, that's quite normal. So you need to push it away from you.
I'm pushing myself away from.
So do you want me to loosen it off you? Right, pass that here. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can pop it on like this, and then do that, and that should start. Sorry, that's actually tightening it. I thought that was the wrong way. You need to pull it toward you. There you go, that's loosening now. That's why you couldn't do it, because it was tightening.
You lied.
I lied, I got it the wrong way. Now what you need to do, now that that's finger tight, this is where you might get a bit covered in oil, which is why we're wearing those gloves. Undo that until you feel it get to the point where it doesn't seem to want to undo anymore, and it wants to pull away from the sump. So you keep your hands clear and you undo it. Keep hold of it because you don't want it to fall into the bowl, so you keep hold of it, and you'll get to a point where it feels like it doesn't want to go any further. There you go, and then that can come out.
Quite warm.
It will be, because it's the engine's obviously been on. You always want to do it with a warm engine, because it means that the oil is more liquid, more fluid, and it'll drain out of the engine easier. So now all you do is you leave that to drain. So take the drain plug, and that rag, there you go, you can use this one. You want to wipe the drain plug.
This is one of the nicer ones. Why are we using this?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I've got loads of them.
I think your wife is going to be angry at you.
It's out here because I use it, so she won't be too angry.
Oh.
And you can give your hands a wipe as well if you like, so you can get rid of any of the stuff that's on your hands.
Oh, that's better. That's more clean. There we go.
There you go, and that's why we wear the gloves, is to protect the hands from the oil. Now, do you notice on that drain plug, do you notice there's a little copper O-ring?
Yep.
So that copper O-ring acts as a seal, and it's always advisable to replace that every time you do an oil change. So I've got a load of them, so you can, if you want, try and carefully pull it off. So what you do with the oil now, we just leave it to drain. So at the moment, even though it looks like it's empty, that's not actually empty. There's still a little bit left in the sump.
Oh, here we go. There we go, that's good.
There you go. Now wipe your hands again. And so that you don't get any grit or anything on that, take the sump bolt and the O-ring, and you see that cloth we've been using, just pop that onto the socket box. So pop it onto the socket box.
Okay.
And then just put the sump plug on top of it. That way you know where your sump plug is. There's nothing worse than having lost the sump plug. Right, I'll go and get you a new O-ring. So, you've got your O-rings. You want to open up the little box. If you just take off the cover.
Oh, it's like that.
There you go, and there's a little foil thing under the little foam thing as well.
Right,
have a look at the size of that O-ring, and then have a look at the size of the other O-rings which are in there. It's also known as a copper washer as well.
Can I match up?
That one's too big. So go to the middle row. And it's not that one, I think it is that one. So you have to bear in mind that because the washer has been, it'll probably be the same. Because the washer has been slightly crushed, it will have expanded slightly. So it's the centre diameter that's the thing that matters.
Ah, okay.
So in other words, will it go over the bolt? And obviously when the bolt is crushed onto the sump.
Yeah, the centre diameter is...
Yeah, and that's, and you'll notice that because it's a bit fatter because it's actually been splayed out a bit. You might actually find, to be honest, that this one might be a better match as well, actually. So if you put that one back, have a look at the difference between those two.
The same.
Yeah, you'll notice, though, that the one that's going to be thrown away has a slight lip on it. So I don't know if you can see it. There is a slight lip around where the bolt goes into.
There is a tiny little bit of a lip.
So that's where it's been tightened and where it actually adds a bit of extra seal to the O-ring, to the bolt as well. So if you grab the bolt and just pop the O-ring onto the bolt, so you literally just slip it over. So you grab the O-ring and then just slip it on like that, and then you can put the box back. So put the foam pad back, and then put the little paper thing back. Actually, turn that paper thing over. There might be measurements on there. Yeah, there are. So that tells you the size of the various washers or O-rings. Then if you close the box and pop it out the way, the reason you want to do that is because you don't want to have that box lying around where you could kick it and then send them flying everywhere, because that's really annoying, and they tend to end up everywhere, usually in a drain in there. So because that has now been draining for quite a while, do you see it's just reduced to a drip?
Yep.
This is the point where you could either leave it to really drain out, but because we do this every year, and because the car doesn't do that many miles, the oil doesn't stay in there long enough to get really dirty and really grubby. So what you want to do is grab your O-ring and grab your bolts,
I'm going to
shimmy under the car, so shimmy under the car, make sure that you got your ratchets, that's what it's called, a ratchet. Make sure you got your ratchet to hand. I was calling it a socket wrench, which is also what it is, but we also call them a ratchet as well because they make a ratchet noise. So we need to flick it so that we're going to be tightening rather than loosening. So if you shimmy under the car,
right,
and you want to turn it to tighten it.
No, okay, I need to reposition. Can I move this out of the way?
Yeah, don't be afraid to move it all the way back, but so that it's still catching oil. Otherwise you're going to get your head covered in oil. So you want it to come about there. You've got space to work around it, but as you can see it's still capturing the oil.
Capturing the oil.
So you want to turn it
right, which way do I turn it?
towards the right, so righty-tighty. So you want to turn it, and there wants to be no resistance to turning it. If there's resistance, stop immediately.
Why is that?
Because at the initial stages, if you get resistance, it means you're starting to go off on the wrong thread, and you're potentially stripping the threads, which you don't want to do because that's a sump off job to replace. So you stick that onto there. Now for tightening, you never do it really tight. You do it so flick the ratchet.
Otherwise you cannot open it again.
Really... and you can strip the thread as well, which I've done before, and it's annoying.
I think I was around when you did that.
Oh no, it wasn't on this car. It was on a 2.7 litre Rover Vitesse. I had to take the sump off to
which way do I turn it then?
Replace it. So flick the ratchet, because I think you just flicked it again. So I'd actually pre-flicked it.
Right.
And you want to go that way. So you're going towards almost like the back of the car. Now, do you see you've got to a point there where it won't go any further?
Yeah, and you don't want to make it go too much further.
So put the ratchet back on and push it with your hand. So you get it to a point where it's like hand tight. They call that hand tight. So hand tight and a little bit more is how you want to do it. So I'll just show you what I mean. So we go on like that, and then we go and you're done. You don't need to go any tighter than that. If you do, because it's only soft, it's only a mild steel sump, you'll strip the thread, and that's really annoying because then you have to drop the sump, which on these isn't it's about average, to be honest. You have to take this cross member off, drop the exhaust, and then you can get to it, so it's not the end of the world. So grab that blue cloth that I had, or grab the white cloth, either will do.
I need to wash my hair. It's been all over the ground.
So grab the white cloth, and what you want to do is just wipe around the sump bolt just to get rid of any residue oil.
Okay. Where's... Oh,
there you go, so you get that nicely out of the way.
just in case it got on the bottom.
Now the next job is one that also needs doing. It's annoying that we have to do it. And that is replacing the coolant. So under here there is a pipe, and we drop that pipe and let it drain into here. So you need a 10mm socket. So grab a 10mm socket from somewhere.
Which one? How can I tell it's 10mm? Is it the 10 one?
Yeah.
Oh, there. And then where's the? Is it under my feet? I cannot find it. There it is.
There you go. So you put that back onto there again, and then just drop the sockets onto there when you're done with them, and then you know which ones you've got to clean. So to get that one off, you'll need to press the button.
Yeah. Press the button
and then pop it on there. And then take that one, pop it on,
button,
switch the ratchet.
There we go.
And then you want to get this under tray off. So start with this one here.
Okay. This one here. Right. I got it on. Not see.
Yeah, that's quite common when working on cars.
There we go.
There you go.
Right, now which way do I turn it?
Pull it towards you.
Oh. Come on. Here. There you go. Is that even turning it?
Let's have a look. Do you want to hold the camera? So if you hold it, and show me doing it.
Oh, there, where are you? Where are you?
Here.
Ah, I've got my fingers in the way of the lens. Hold on. Ah! Yeah, that's going to be cut out. That's much better.
So I've had this off a few times before and it's all rust proofed. I don't need any WD-40. Normally you'd need WD-40 to loosen it, or plus gas. So because this car is in good condition and doesn't have much rust on it, all of the bolts come out relatively easily. Because the car's been looked after not only by me, but by the previous owner. There we go. And then that should drop out the way. There is a cable tie there, so I need to snip that cable tie, and then we'll need to put a new cable tie on there.
It's all zoomed in. Why is it zoomed in?
There you go. If you grab that, go and pop that on our white thing. Okay, we now need to take this off, which is the lower hose, and that has I think that's a 7mm socket. So the 7mm will be tiny.
Yeah, I've got it.
So if you pass me the 7, and I'll just check that it fits, and it does. So if you grab your socket, your ratchet.
The small ratchet.
Here it is. So put that socket back onto the cloth. So if you take that out, so we'll be needing that 10 again in a minute. So the bolt that I took out is on there as well for the under tray thing. What you want to do now Let's pop that 7 onto there, and then come over here. And you see, what I've done before to make things easier is I've put this in such a way that it's facing, hang on a minute, it's actually facing downwards. So to get your socket onto there isn't going to be too difficult because I've put it so it's facing downwards. That was done deliberately by me.
Right.
So it's facing directly downwards. So then you can just put the socket onto it.
Oh, come on.
So turn it a bit. There you go. And then you can push the socket away from you. So push that away. There you go. Now you're undoing that Jubilee clip.
Uh-oh. Is it? No, I can't.
Yeah, keep going.
Oh, God. Gotta rest. My back is hurting now.
That's right, I'll do it. Okay, what I want you to do, go up to the top of the engine bay. So stand up. And do you see the radiator cap on top of the radiator?
Where's the radiator?
So the radiator is right at the front here.
Right.
And do you see there's a cap on top of it? It's silver in colour. Looks almost like a bow tie.
Bow tie. No, I don't.
So do you see a cap up there that's got possibly a yellow warning sticker on it? Right at the front of the engine.
But I do see a yellow warning sticker about whether it's...
Does the cap have sort of like little things on it?
Yes, I see what...
And it looks almost like a bit of like a bow tie.
No, it's not like a bow tie.
Alright, what's it look like to you?
It's orange and it's like a circle with... I don't know what those are. Bumps on it.
Yeah, so those bumps allow you to open it. So, because the car's been off for a while, and it's had a chance to cool down, press it down with the palm of your hand, and turn it towards your left.
Right.
Is it turning?
Yeah.
And what you should be able to do is lift off carefully, and then pull the cap off. Does the cap come off?
This one.
Perfect. So if you put the cap on the battery, so meanwhile, I've been undoing this for a little while, and it's almost ready to pop off.
So, what is that green liquid?
That is antifreeze. It's dangerous to cats, humans, and other life forms. And
Dangerous how? Dangerous to ingest or dangerous?
Dangerous to ingest. Also, because it smells very sweet, cats are attracted to it, which is why whenever I do an antifreeze job, I always hose down the area thoroughly and try to catch as much as I can in a drain tub, because you don't want it going anywhere near your cats, because it kills them, basically. It's not very nice. It's fine for the engine, but it's not very nice for wildlife and animals, and that's why we keep all of our stuff in this tray, and then we decant this tray into a big canister, which we then take to the dump. So we dispose of the chemicals responsibly. So do you want to get down onto the ground? Get into a sort of position that I'm in, so you sort of lie on your side like this. There you go, and you see at the moment that pipe, Jubilee clip is off.
Yeah.
What you want to do is kind of grab the pipe like this and pull it back. Carefully does it, because that's ready to pop. So pull it back gently, get your hand out the way.
Yeah, it got antifreeze all over my hand.
There you go. Go and wash your hand on the outside tap. So the outside, do you know where the outside tap is?
Nah, don't get my hair. Yeah.
So go and wash your hand on the outside tap, which is in front of the kitchen.
That's violent.
Yeah, don't touch the car or anything with it. Hang on a minute. I'll be with you in a second.
Always have liquid all the time.
Don't worry, it's not It is poisonous, but it's not going to kill you because you've got your gloves on.
On my arm.
Again, it's not going to kill you.
Yeah, this is...
So one thing we can actually do, because we've got the engine oil draining at the moment, we can start.
Go for a bath after this.
Yeah,
My hair might be a bit dirty.
absolutely. I always have a shower after doing work like this. So we can have a look around the top of the engine bay. So because I don't have an oil filter, we're not doing the oil filter today. But I can show you around some other bits that you would service. On a modern car, so a car of this sort of age, the spark plugs, which live under the coils that you've got here, don't need to be changed every service. I tend to do them every few years. I'm not sure of the mileage. I think it's like every 20 or 30,000 miles on this one.
It's a bit rusty, that. What is it?
That is a bracket that holds on the alternator, but don't worry about the rust. That's just cosmetic. What I'll probably do at one point, just to make it look nicer, is take that off, de-rust it, and then spray it black so it looks like it did originally. Also do the same with his heat shields. That doesn't look very presentable. So yeah, you would change the spark plugs.
Okay.
And you see this thing at the back?
Yeah.
If you flick these open, like so, and then lift that off, that's your air filter. So the air filter doesn't need to be changed every single service on these either, especially not on this one because it's not driven enough to get it dirty. That is actually very clean. If you drive it in the city, they used to get very dirty in city traffic, but because cars' emissions these days are a lot better, and you don't see cars the age of my Jag around as much anymore, the emissions from cars are a lot cleaner than they used to be, so there's a lot less soot, so you get a lot less soot coming into an air filter. So that's why the air filter, because we live in the countryside as well, we don't drive this that often, that's why this air filter is still perfectly clean. So that is absolutely serviceable, perfectly fine. So you can check it, like we've just done, then you can pop that back on. It's a job you can almost do one-handed.
Oh, that one's...
So if you press it, what you do is you press it down like that, and you grab that, pull it like that,
Oh, okay.
and that makes it go on quicker.
Probably wasn't pressing it down enough then.
That is the brake fluid. Now the brake fluid was last changed 3 years ago. It needs doing every 2 years. So we'll be doing that.
It's a bit overdue then, isn't it?
Not terribly, because
Not driven much.
it's not driven much, and I've got this meter that tests for how much water is in the brake fluid, and it's not registering that it needs changing yet, so it's actually okay. That's the thing with brake fluid, it's what's called hydroscopic, so it absorbs water, and that's what causes problems in car braking systems. It's because it absorbs water. It actually lowers the boiling point of the brake fluid.
Oh.
So if you're doing a lot of heavy braking, the fluid will boil in the calipers, and you get what's called brake fade. So you feel like you've got no brake pedal anymore.
Okay.
And the more you press, the less braking you almost have. Brake fade can happen for other reasons. It can be if the pads get too hot. Like on this one, because we don't have vented discs yet, if you go down a really steep hill and you're riding the brakes constantly, they will get almost too hot to be efficient anymore and then start smoking, which isn't great, but that's just, you know, how it is.
We had to air it off at the...
We did when we took it to Linton once.
Yeah.
And that's because I was braking all the way down that steep hill, and when we got to the bottom, the brakes were toasty and hot, which is why I've got different caliper carriers from an N15 Almira, which bolt straight onto these uprights, which allow you to use different calipers but vented discs. So vented discs are better because they've got a sandwich, 2 layers of metal with veins inside, so they're sandwiched with those veins, and those veins allow air through the disc to keep it cool.
Okay.
So the brake fluid we'll have to do in a couple of weeks, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So that isn't a huge job, it's more fiddly than anything. But because we've got our sump bolt on, we're not doing the oil filter this time around because I don't have a filter, but you would normally do the oil filter whenever you do an oil change. But again, because the oil that's come out of this is, well, clean, it's not going to harm it using the oil filter for another round of driving. The sump in this doesn't hold very much. I think it holds about 2.8 litres. So grab the Shell oil down there. I think it's this one. And I think there's probably about 1 litre left in that one. So we'll start with that one to use it up. So if you pull that, and just pull it upwards. There you go, and if you untwist it, now there's a knack to this. If you go grab that blue cloth, just shake it out so you don't get any grit on it, and just rest it around here. So if you just rest it sort of around like that, but you want to keep the hole visible. Now take that, don't pour it in like that, you want to tilt it on its side. So go like that, that's right. Now aim it over there, and then carefully, that's it, carefully pour it out. So you want to go slowly rather than quickly, and you want to be as steady as you can. Now you can pour all of that in, because I think there might even be a couple of litres in that, so we might almost make the oil change. And also because we're not changing the filter, we've still got oil in the filter, which makes up about, I don't know, half a litre or so.
Concentration.
So this is the same oil that we put in last time, and it's manufacturer's recommended weight, which is 10W40. So the numbers 10W40, it basically means how thin the oil is when it's cold, and also the range of temperatures that it remains thin at. So in other words, it doesn't sort of start turning into gel, which it can do when it sort of starts to freeze. If it gets cold enough, it becomes all gloopy. Right.
Right, that's okay.
There you go. So if you grab this, which is the dipstick, and pull it outwards and up. Take it out of the tube completely and have a look at it. So you want to look at this end. Can you see any oil on there yet?
Well, it feels like there's oil there.
So wipe it off with the rag. Pop it back into the dipstick hole.
Is that there?
There you go, so you pop it back down, straight down.
And then pull it out again to see how much oil there is.
Push it all the way down so it goes past this little seal. Pull it out again, and then yeah, you want to check how much oil's on the dipstick. So it's not easy to see because...
Oh, here, it starts...
No, it won't. It actually starts down here, so it's right at the bottom of the dipstick there at the moment.
Odd.
So that means we need to put in a bit more oil. So pop the dipstick back in.
We got all slippy about that point.
So it probably needs another litre or so. So we're going to use this oil. It's the same grade, and it's not actually this Lexicon oil that's in here. It's basically this Shell stuff.
Shell?
Yeah, so you don't usually want to mix manufacturers of oil, so because they have different additives and other bits and bobs.
What do you mean Shell? Isn't...
So, sorry, Mobil. Not Shell, Mobil.
Okay.
So that's actually got Mobil in it rather than this Lexicon stuff. So if you open that, it is quite full, so you're going to have to be extra careful with it, which is why we got this in place. So bring it over so that you've got the nozzle almost over there. Start tipping it.
This this one's a different kind of need to get into a different position. Oh crap.
And that's why you've got the rag there. So that's alright, keep going. Get yourself in a different position.
It's harder when it's full. I don't think I can get it in the right position to do this. It's a bit too full.
So go round that side of the car. You actually got a clearer position because you got this little nook here that you can tuck it into. And then you can sort of go down like that.
Yeah, no, I can't do that.
Okay, do you want to hold this and I'll show you?
Yeah, that one's just too full.
There you go, so grab that. So with a really full one like this, so you want to pan up on me. Really full one like this, cradle it at the bottom, like this. Grabbing the handle, to go around that actually. Grab the handle and start tipping it. You're sort of lifting it from the bottom and almost using your hand like a pivot. Then when you start to see it come out, aim it roughly into the position where it's going to go in there, and then start pouring. So at the moment we're pouring in, and stop, pop that out of the way, grab our rag and just wipe around where the other oil spilt. So that's why you have a rag, so that you can wipe away any spills. And then grab the dipstick, and then check the oil level. We are a little bit more, so we're not far, not quite there yet. I've actually made that a bit difficult myself as I'm covering the majority of the hole. Getting oil everywhere is a rite of passage. There we go, that should be enough. So you want to clean any oil that you can. Kitchen roll's a really good one for cleaning this sort of stuff out. Now if we look at the dipstick, do you see it's in that hatched area there? So you see the little dots?
Mm-hmm.
That's called hatched. So that is the level that you want to keep it between. You've got the minimum point and the maximum point, and it just wants to be at the top of that hatched area, which it is. So that means we have enough oil.
Let's zoom in.
In the sump.
Oops. Just made it zoom in by
So if you do the... It's alright, you're on 1 at the moment,
yeah,
that's fine.
I reversed.
There you go. So then you can put this back on. Like so. And to make sure...
Ah, it's doing it again. No. I tried to zoom in a little bit and then it zooms in way too far.
To make sure that you get rid of all this oil, WD-40 is a good job. Good for this. So we can just go like that. There we are. That gets rid of the oil that's on there. Actually makes it easier to wipe it all down as well. Like so. WD-40 is also pretty good if you want to do a basic clean of stuff. It's not brilliant, but it does act as quite a good degreaser. It's not perfect, as I say. There we go. Right, so that's the oil done. So the final thing that we want to do is to put the drain pipe, put the lower pipe back on for the coolant. So we need to clear things out of the way first, because we don't want everything in the way. So you only want to have the things that you need. So we don't need that anymore, because that is empty. That can go in the bin. We will need the antifreeze in a minute. And what I need you to do now, if you pass me that, go and pop your gloves back on. We'll start the next phase of the job. So we have just finished draining all the coolant. You can see it's just dripping now. So that's basically the majority of the coolant out of the engine. So what I'll do is I'll get this started for you. So the position I'm in is actually the best position to do it from. Grab the lower pipe, and then you push it onto the bottom of the radiator so it goes firmly home like that.
Should we wipe that off?
Yes, actually, if you grab the white one, so I've destroyed the other one. So you can give that a bit of a wipe around there, and that means that's nicely sorted out. There you go, you can put that back. Now also, because we have cleaned under here so well, there's no antifreeze anywhere around. So that's why we removed this panel here, so that we could actually get this out without letting antifreeze spill all over the place. And we've managed to keep all of the antifreeze in this bucket here, so we can dispose of it safely. So what you want to do, and this might actually be easier, if you go to the socket sets, there is a set of 1/4 inch sockets. One of them will be 7mm, so they'll be 1/4 inch, they'll be small, and they'll be underneath probably that washer tub. So do you see that tub of washers? Do you see there's a selection of smaller sockets?
Yeah.
One of those will be a 7. There you go. Now, do you see there's a black handled thing that looks like a screwdriver? So pop that socket onto the end of that, it'll just push on. There you go. Now get into the position, get in front of me. There you go. Now, using one of your hands, you want to move your left hand up here. So move this hand. Is that your right or left?
That's my right.
Okay, move your right hand so it turns that like that and holds it in position. And then bring it forward. You see where it was on previously, where you got the wear mark there? You want to get it exactly over that point, not right to the front, back a bit so you've got enough rubber there.
I can't see it currently.
I'll hold it in place. So start to put that onto there, start turning it.
I'm going to use my right hand for this.
There you go. So that starts to tighten it, and by holding it in place, you're keeping it in a nice position for when you want to do the job again in a couple of years' time.
Almost there. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I think I'll do it a little bit further than that. This does take a while to tighten, doesn't it?
Yeah, it will. So it goes slowly. You never want to over tighten these because they can strip and fall apart. So when you get to a point where it feels tight, you've done it enough.
Right,
So
I think that's about it.
yeah, that's, you see it sort of coming to the side slightly, that's more than enough. You've got this bulge at the back because that's where the radiator lower pipe is. If you pull it back like that,
you're moving the whole car.
And it moves the whole car, then it's on tight enough. So I'll just give it a quick nip up with this just to double check. Yeah, that's fine.
Right, I'm up.
Yep, there we go. That is absolutely perfect. Now, similar story with coolant.
Right.
We will need to put that back on in a minute as well.
No, it's fine. You just leave it hanging off there.
So you need to get that off somehow, so...
Well,
Alright, I'll do it. Okay, this is similar to pouring in the oil. Now, because it's full, I'll do it for you if you like. Or do you want to have a go?
this is not as bad a position as the oil one.
That's why you want to possibly go sideways onto it. So, if I move out the way, tip it sideways. That's it. Well done.
That's so much better. Oh, don't want to. Why is it green?
That's the colour of antifreeze. Some's red, some is blue, some is actually bright yellow and smells very sweet.
Which is probably the most dangerous.
No, it's not. It's just a different blend of antifreeze. A lot of
I mean, it's the most dangerous for cats because it's the most sweet smelling.
Possibly. Antifreeze that MG Rover used was this sort of orangey yellow colour.
Oh.
Or when it starts bubbling like that, ease off pouring it in.
When do we stop?
When it reaches the top. And that won't be the end of it because we need to circulate it around the engine. So it's going in the radiator at the moment. And what will happen is we'll start the engine with the radiator cap off. We'll let the engine get up to operating temperature. When the thermostat opens, which is inside this housing here, all of this coolant will suddenly drop out of the radiator and go into the engine. And then you top up the radiator a bit more.
Oh,
Oh, there you go.
that was sudden. Right, I've got to clean that off now. Oh, bye.
There you go. So put this cap back onto the antifreeze.
Oh, I'm going to freeze this. There we go.
Let's use that to get rid of that. And then wipe it down with that white cloth. So just give it the whole area a good wipe down. So make sure you get into that little nook there. That's it. And don't worry, the battery's off, so you can just get down into here by the fan as well.
Oh yeah, no, I cannot.
So before we started the job, something I did without telling you was I put the heater onto full hot. So you want to basically put the heater on hot before you do a coolant change, that you get all the coolant out of the heater matrix, which lives behind.
What if someone was following a step by step and
Here.
didn't turn on the heater?
It's alright, I'm going to put it at the beginning
It's a joke.
as well.
That was a joke, kind of. Not many people are going to be following it step by step at the time.
Well, they might, you never know. So,
Just in case.
let's put that out the way there. So I'll just put it onto the windscreen scuttle there. And do you want to connect up the battery again?
This one first.
So positive first, negative second. There we go. So, pop your rag down, grab the key, and start the engine. So you don't need to sit in, you can just pop that on into the key.
Oh.
So turn, there you go. Let it go. There you go. Now, do you notice at the moment you've got an oil light on, possibly?
Which one's that?
There is no oil light on, so that's fine. So if you get out of the car, always lower the window.
Just in case.
Just in case.
It locks.
And now we just leave it running. So what we want it to do is to circulate all of the coolant around the engine. But what we want it ultimately to do is open the thermostat so that all the coolant in the radiator goes into the engine block. And then that will get to a point where we will then need to fill it up a little bit more. So you can see at the moment that is just idling now. So what I've done as well is I've turned off the air conditioning, so it's not running the air conditioning fans. The heater was on full hot before we started, and I've put the fan on as well, so you've actually got air blowing through the heater matrix. And whilst it's running like this, to try and get all of the air out of the system, you want to squeeze this pipe. So you squeeze the top hose like that, try and get air out of the system. Now do you see there's no coolant in there at the moment. That's because the system has already dragged through a load of coolant. So grab your coolant, pop it open, pop that there, that'll be fine there. But if you pop it over that, that'll sort of hold it in place. So it goes over that little bonnet mount. Turn it sideways like that, that's it. And then gently pour it in until you see it get to the top. Whoa. And then you squeeze that. Do you see what happens when I squeeze it? Sometimes it will actually sort of cause that to bubble up. If there are lots of air bubbles in the system, that will bubble up as well. So put a little bit more in there.
You want to go very slowly.
Exactly what you want to do. Always go slowly. Whoa! Now, you would also mix this with a certain amount of distilled water. So you wouldn't normally want to use tap water when filling a cooling system because it has too many impurities. So you would use distilled water.
Oi, does it burn over the edge?
It's alright, that's what it will do. We can put this on like so. There you go. Hang on, watch out.
Blast our problems away.
Because I've still got the drip tray under there, it's catching all of that in the drip tray, so it's not going on to the tarmac at all. You can also, if you wanted, you can get some water and just spray it over there as well. But I don't have any water spray at the moment. What I do have, the next best thing, if you go into that bucket there, there's some car cleaning spray. That'll do the job. So I can just spray this down there as it's made out of water. There we go.
change the car.
There you go. You can. It does. That smells of bubble gum. You can run that rag along there as well, and that also serves the purpose of giving that slam panel a nice clean as well.
There we go.
There you go. You can sort of wipe around that area. Now you can feel this pipe is starting to get warm, and that's because the thermostat, which is in here, which is out really hot, is starting to open. These pipes at the back of the engine, they're feeling warm as well. So if these feel warm, these pipes back here, which go into the heater matrix, that's a good sign, because the heater matrix is coolant is still circulating around the matrix. So I'll just give it a bit of a rev. So, where is it? Oh, it's right down there. I've forgotten where it's gone. So what you want to do is you would probably do this from the interior, but don't worry, come here. You would normally do this from the interior. You would basically sit the engine at about 1500 RPM, and that gets coolant circulating around the engine quicker. And also, because it increases the heat, it also means that that thermostat will open quicker as well. Ow! There we are. So now if I feel this, that's definitely getting there. Yeah, you can start to feel water squidging through there, or coolant rather. So it's not boiling hot, so I can carefully open that. So you can put a little bit more antifreeze in there now. Go sideways. Stop. There. Now watch what happens if I rev it. That might go down. So if I do this. Oh, I got it. Oh, no, it does exactly the opposite.
It rejected it.
There we go. So what we're waiting for at the minute is for the engine to heat up to the point where coolant starts going into the radiator. So at the moment the radiator is cold, so coolant isn't flowing through yet. So as you can see, there is a lot of waiting around when you're doing work on a car. So bring up the revs again. So they call it a fast idle. So that's idle speed, which is about 800, 900 RPM. This is a fast idle, which is about 12 to 1500 RPM. That's too fast. That's a fast idle, and that's what you want to keep it at. when you're allowing coolant to circulate around the engine. Hang on, if you take those off there, put those on the floor. Start to see it also starts smelling warm as well. If you've got your face here, you can start to smell all the fluids that we've sprayed on there beginning to burn off. And that's probably because, yeah, there you go, thermostat has started to open. You can feel that's quite warm, so I can carefully remove this again. Now, do you see me squeezing that? Do you see it sort of manipulating the level of it? So you squeeze that to expel any airlocks within the system. Now, because this is a conventional Japanese car, the highest point of the cooling system is this expansion tank. So any air that gets trapped in there will bubble up through this pipe and come out of here. That's why there's this little thing here for air to come out of. On a car like the Renault there, their highest point of the cooling system typically is this pipe that runs usually along sort of the back of the engine and has almost like a tyre valve on the end of it. And you take off this little cap and all of the coolant comes out of that little pipe and expels the air from the highest point of the engine. That's what you want to do, or what the engine wants to do, is it wants to push all of that air that's in the cooling system up to the highest point. And that's why you usually always fill an engine from the highest point. At this point, you've got two highest points. You've got here, which is the highest point of the end cooling system, because it's above the line of the cylinder head. And you've got this, which is also technically above the engine as well. If I squeeze this again, let's give it a rev again as well. So go up to fast idle. I'm going to pop a little bit more coolant in there. That's it, sideways on. Oh, there we go. We'll just let that drop down naturally. So when the cooling system's under pressure, what it will do is it won't keep all of the coolant in the radiator. What it will do is it will push it out of this hose into this expansion tank. When it's cooler, what it will also do then is it will pull coolant from this expansion tank back into the system. So yeah, the radiator's still cold at the moment, so that pipe is warm. There is definitely... it's definitely getting warm, so you can feel it. The reason why it's taken a while is because these pipes going into the matrix are really, really hot, which is good, which means there's air circulating into the matrix. There we go. Let's get that out of the way. So let's go round to the front of the car. And you can tell if you've got air in the system, because if you've got air in the system, the air coming out of these vents will be freezing cold. Well, not freezing cold, but they'll be external temperatures. You see they're hot at the moment. That's because there's air coolant going into the matrix, and there's no air locks, so it's circulating quite nicely.
That's all, I think that's a bit detached.
Yeah, it is, because I took it out once and I lost the thing that puts it back in properly.
Oh.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the fan off, because at the moment the system is being cooled by the very fact that the fan is blowing over the heater matrix. So the whole engine's being kept cool by the heater matrix, so the thermostat isn't fully opening. So if I turn that off, that should stop the heater matrix cooling everything down. And what should happen now is the engine temperature will increase to the point that the thermostat will open. And coolant should start going fully around the radiator. So I'll hold it at a fast idle again. In fact, I can let you do this. Open up the door. Now, do you see where the rev counter is? There's a rev counter.
Which one?
So it's the one that's registering just under 1 at the moment.
Just yes.
So press the accelerator.
Which one is the accelerator?
The one on the right, the small one.
Small one.
Whoa! Right, try and hold it at just above 1. So you see there's a little notch above 1. So press it, and then you can get to a point where you can just hold it there. It takes a bit of practice, but you just want to hold it just above 1, about there. So that's a fast idle.
Okay.
And that's enough to circulate coolant around the system quicker and actually get the engine warmer quicker. So you can see the temperature gauge. So you see which one's the temperature gauge. So you've got the fuel gauge, which is registering just under full.
Well, the temperature gauge is the one next to it.
And the temperature gauge is the one next to it that's registering about halfway, which is perfect. So hold it at that RPM, and I can go round and check to see if the thermostat's opening, which it should be very soon. Oh yeah, that's... yep. Ow! Yeah, that's open. So what I'm doing now is, whilst that's being revved and dropping the coolant, I'm just topping it off with a little bit more coolant. And that's going down nicely, so you've got all the air bubbles being expelled, which is good. With that gentle squeeze. Ow! Okay, a bit of a wipe. That is doing exactly what it should be doing. There you go, now the fan's cut in. Right, did you hear that loud noise?
Yeah.
That's the cooling fans. So the cooling fans just cut in because the temperature gauge, it hasn't actually gone up that much, but it's got to a point where it's hot enough for the fans to cut in. And let the foot off the accelerator and turn off the engine. Done. There you go, that's the coolant done. You can leave the keys in the ignitions, I'll need to move it later. So, final thing that we need to do is to put that under tray back on. So we've got the under tray. We can also check the oil level as well, so we'll just let it settle for a bit. And if you grab the nice rag and check the level of the oil. So if you pull the dipstick and then check the level, so wipe it off. So wipe it off.
Okay.
That's fine. So what you do when you're checking the oil, is you take the dipstick out, you wipe it down, you then put the dipstick back in, all the way back in. It needs to go all the way in. So you see there's like that O-ring on there. It goes in, but then you've got to push it a bit further so the O-ring goes into place. So you pop it in.
Well, I may as well wash it then.
Yeah, clean it off again. Pop it in, push it down, push it down, push it down, push it down, keep pushing.
Jesus.
Did you get burnt? Yeah, watch the exhaust manifold, it's hot. Now pull it out. Before wiping it, check the level. So have a look at that hatched area there. There's a bubble on there.
Yeah.
Oil is at the top. You've got enough oil. When you're checking it, try and keep it level, because you can get a false reading otherwise, because the oil will start going down the dipstick. But that oil is perfect. There's enough oil in there. And you can pop the dipstick back in.
Burnt my knuckle now.
That's alright, it doesn't last long. Put the dipstick back in. So you need to go in over the air conditioning hose, down by the alternator. And then you go down, 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 down,
I'm
down,
just not
in.
Touch that.
There you go. Now, because this has been settling for a bit, we can grab this rag or cloth, put it over the cap there, and turn that slowly. So you turn it like that, slowly, to let off any pressure. Turn it again, a bit slower, let off any pressure. Turn it completely. There's the pressure completely losing and completely going, and you can release it. And then you can do a final check of the coolant, which if I do this, see that's moving around in there?
And there's steam coming out of it.
And there's steam coming out of it. That means there's enough coolant in there. You don't want it all the way at the top. You just want it so it's showing at the bottom there. So there's enough coolant in the radiator. The radiator's full of coolant.
Okay.
The system is full of coolant. The expansion tank is above minimum and between maximum, which is exactly where you want it to be. That can go back on. And because I'm weird, I like to have the warning label facing that way so I can read it.
It has to be.
Just looks better.
That needs to be turned slightly more.
It's alright, that's as far as it'll go.
Okay.
So if I take it off, I'll show you.
Annoying.
So you just see you've got these lock-in points here.
Yeah.
So when you put this on, there's two little things down here, little latch-in points there. So there's one there, and there's one on the other side. It's probably easier if you do it this way. Do you see those?
Yeah.
So you put it on like that, press it down, turn it, and on it goes.
Annoyingly, it's not quite straight.
So this is actually a pressure release valve in here. So if the coolant pressure got too high, that would actually release upwards, and coolant would go down here into the expansion chamber. So that's why it's always sort of regulating, it self-regulates its pressure. Now, what can happen, certainly what happened on the Jag, is it needed a new radiator cap, because the cap itself got so worn out that even the smallest amount of pressure would cause it to go up, and then it would dump all of the coolant out of the system, which was a bit annoying. Because on the Jag, there's no expansion tank like this. It has what's called a header tank. So the header tank is the highest point of the cooling system. It has like a bigger version of this radiator cap on it, and then there's a pipe coming off of it that just dumps the oil coolant onto the ground if it gets too high pressure wise.
Well, that's not very good.
It's fine, because the header tank actually serves as a pressure vessel in its own right.
It's not good to just dump coolant onto the ground.
It's an old-fashioned way of doing it, so it was fine in the 80s. Let's put it that way.
It's almost as bad as ships dumping off their oil in the water.
True, but to be honest, it has to be running. If the radiator cap is in good shape, it has to be running in extreme conditions for the pressure to get high enough to actually push the pressure release valve on the cap up.
Okay.
And that's what I noticed, because there was no problem with the head gasket or anything like that, so the system wasn't being pressurised by exhaust gases on the Jag. It was the the coolant cap, the radiator or coolant header tank cap that needed to be replaced. So as soon as I did that, the problem has, touch wood, gone away. That's not wood. This is wood. No, it's not. That's metal.
It's no wood.
Doesn't matter. Right, so we now have to put the under tray back on. We need to get the oil drained off, and I won't record doing that because it's quite boring. But that's our next things that we need to do. So there we go. How did you find your first oil change?
That was fun. I enjoyed it.
Difficult or?
It wasn't that difficult.
Excellent. So you can do it again next time. Anyway, for everybody else, thank you very much for watching.